Well, good morning, everyone. I know everyone's kind of filing in from what I hope were some really exciting and engaging side events this morning. And I hope everyone enjoyed themselves last night at the Borlaug Field Award. Hope you all had a chance to see our beautiful Hall of Laureates. Again, my name is Morgan Day. I'm the Director of Planning here at the World Food Prize. And I am thrilled this morning. Our lineup of panels this morning is chock full of leaders, and this morning we're really focusing on agriculture and food insecurity in Africa. But I hope that there are some really broader themes that we can draw out that will be relevant regardless of region. I am absolutely thrilled to be introducing our first panel. Dr. Lindiwe Sibanda is bringing to life the real experiences from Africa with her panel. Last year, she led a panel focusing on African women scientists, which included the President of the Republic of Mauritius, Amina Gurib Fakim. And this year, she's bringing together fresh voices from African youth. The Aspen New Voices Fellows, several of them are going to be a part of the panel, as well as FANRPAN policy expert to share their personal experiences about how Africa's youth can secure the farming future. And if you'll please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Right. Thank you very much, Morgan, for that introduction, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited to be hosting this panel at a time when the African Union has declared 2017 as the year in which we are harnessing the demographic dividend by investing in the youth. Now, I've deliberately set away from the panel because according to the African Union, youth is 15 to 35, and I'm way beyond that. I'm excited because we have 54 countries in Africa. We have taken the best of the best, just 4 countries. I'm going to take you to Uganda. I'm going to take you to Kenya. I'm going to take you to Mali. And I'm going to take you to Zimbabwe, all in an effort to showcase the best of the best in the youth that are doing it and leading by example. Emma, you were here 4 years ago, and I remember Ambassador Quinn showing off that he has been to a 1-acre farm that does it all. Take us to your farm. Just paint a picture. What is happening right now in Uganda at your farm?
My acre is my farm is 1 acre, and I divided it in 2 quarters. A quarter goes for the pigs, another quarter goes for the plantain, matoke, the sour staple food, and then a 10th goes to the fish, a 10th goes to the cattle, another 10th goes to the vegetables, and another 10th is just left for, just in case I need to do something else. I also have chickens on the same farm. Now, at 4 a.m., I wake up, and I hold a board meeting with my animals and the plants. And they only say one thing, that the plants talk to me, and the cows and the cattle and everything say, if you take care of us, we shall take care of you all the way to the bank. And that way, I get energized and start working. And I'm very happy to tell you that I'm able to provide for my family. I look after my kids, give them food, nutritious food at that, from the farm. And I also am able to take them to school, give them medical attention, give them warm clothing, trendy ones at that. So from the proceeds I get from the farm.
But Emma, you are a qualified veterinarian. White-collar job. I know you do cattle front and back, but white-collar job, yeah? Yeah. Why go into something like farming? I mean, and smallholder farming, not just farming on a 1-acre farm. Surely there is better things to be doing than farming?
Actually, the best white-collar job I have is farming. Do you know what? It seems dirty, but that's green gold. So that's why I decided to go there, for the green gold.
How many people are you employing at that farm?
Right now, I employ about 5 people. My husband actually is my farm manager. So I employ him as my farm manager. So right now, he's busy taking care of the animals and everything. But this is one thing I've decided to do as well. After being successful in farming, I decided to train, my farm is a demonstration farm. So I decided to train people, main emphasis on the youth and the women, better methods of farming, because I want everyone to be successful like I do. And then, bearing in mind that an average Ugandan is 14 years, I decided to also, my husband and I decided to open up a primary school.
Wow.
Now, this primary school is a normal school, and it teaches only the 3 things Africans have failed to teach their children. It's a school for children for African farmers. It teaches time management through farming, because farming is the greatest timekeeper. If you don't plant or if you don't plow on time, then you're going to miss on the rainy season. It's right now raining at home. So if you didn't plan on time and plow and everything, remember we don't have tractors, so you need to use your hands and ox plow. So we teach them how to manage time through farming, and then we teach them the value of money. We teach them that each child from 8 years to 12 years is given a banana plant, because that's our staple food. So we give them a banana plant to look after. This enables them to have knowledge, also to care and to be responsible. And then we teach them that this thing that you have is going to give you money. So you don't just plant and leave it. So they have to look after it, make sure they have quality products. And then they sell the products. And then we teach them the other value, the value of money, that is value of money. And then we teach them the culture of saving. So they are young children. So a young child knows I don't have anything, I don't have to buy food, I don't have to do this, but I'm going to, so we teach them, you can buy candy, but you need to save. So each child in my school has a bank account.
Wow.
So that's what I do.
Thank you. Time management, value of money,
and the culture of saving.
And the culture of saving. Well done, Emma.
Thank you.
Let me stay with Uganda. Thank you. Talk about giving back to your community. So Emma is farming. You are in Uganda, and you've chosen to go into advisory services. What help can you give to Emma's farm? What are you doing in Uganda on advisory services?
So basically, I work with the 1 Acre Fund, and we support smallholder farmers in a region called Busoga. It's in the eastern part of the country and one of the poorest in the country. What we do is that we get these farmers, train them on better farming practices, and then we give them credit in the form of inputs. And we have seen a lot of actual results, because a typical farmer in that region only harvests about 5 bags of maize in 1 acre. That is about 500 kilos. Mm-hmm. But through the work that we have done, we have farmers now harvesting up to 40 bags an acre. So they have now the food that they need. They can sell some of this grain to actually take their kids to school and meet other household needs.
Moses, this is 2017. We heard that fall armyworm had devastated parts of Uganda. You moved from 5 to 40 bags, and you are not touched by fall armyworm, no diseases. You're good?
Yeah, actually, most of the farmers suffered from the fall armyworm. Okay. It destroyed the maize at the early stage. Even when we used the advisory by Ministry of Agriculture to actually advise the farmers, they could spray the maize, and the small larva would actually die, and then different stages of the larva would keep surviving and ate the maize up to the grain stage. Mm-hmm. And this affected the quality of the maize that they produced. So even if the farmer got the 40 bags I was referring to, The price of their maize was actually very low because of the poor quality. And you could feel the frustration of farmers. They were using various kinds of chemicals, including acaricides.
Oh my goodness.
Dr. Emma.
What is an acaricide?
Acaricide is an insecticide for tick control.
Oh.
But I think because it smells so bad, the farmers thought it would chase away the moth. And for us who were training the farmers, when you go to the garden, you could actually get itches on your skin. And then we get scared because when you look at the agrovets, we actually have chemicals which are banned in the Ugandan market. Roundup, 2,4-D, a lot of things. And I think it's very important that we actually train farmers better.
So there's a job there. There is a job for advisory services. There is a job for regulatory services from government. And there's a job for responsible chemical deployment by the industry.
Yes.
But take me back. You said you work in a poor region. I'll tell you one thing. My grandfather never saw himself as being poor because he always said, I've invested in all these children. That's labor for me. That's income for me. What makes an African village poor? Why do you say they're poor?
So I will talk about my personal story. And I'm actually a grandson to somebody who had 5 wives, my grandfather, and produced 45 children.
45 children.
45 children.
That's wealth.
Yes, so in
I was talking 12, but 45, that's rich.
Yes, during their time, they felt pride by having a lot of wives and having so many children. But the result was that they couldn't have enough food in the household. My father actually tells me of when they would ring a bell just to call them for a meal.
They ring a bell at
yes,
mealtimes.
and if you delayed to run to the eating table, you would likely miss the food. So what was painful to him was one day when he actually performed very well at school, and he went with a report card. He tells me he was the first in his class all through except once when he became second after losing only 2 marks. But with the good results, he went to his father and said, I have actually been admitted to a technical school and I need fees. And the father said, I cannot waste time with you. You already know how to count, and that is it for you. So my father ended up becoming a peasant farmer. Peasant meaning growing small stuff for survival. But through his hard work, he was actually able to take me to school. And I got a degree in agriculture and another in environment. And I feel that the job that I have now to actually serve this group of farmers is the best job in the world. Because when you look at Africa, we are the youngest population in the world. And whatever we are doing for these smallholders is actually a service to these young people who probably will be lucky like myself and get something else they can actually do in the future.
Thank you so much for that story of your life. Thank you, and that you're serving your community by giving back. Thank you, Moses. Over to you, Messi. You're working for one of the most prestigious CGIAR centers. There's 17 of them, but we're still talking about children going to bed hungry, children being sent off school because they haven't had enough food. What does that mean to you? What are you guys doing?
Actually, I can really relate to this story because when my mother was pregnant with me, she was a farmer, she had anemia. As a result, I was born too early at 32 weeks, barely a pound. The doctors gave me 72 hours to live. I'm so happy to be alive today, and what I do with the life I've been given is really to link agriculture to nutrition outcomes, because that's the link that is broken. So when I go to farming communities, I feel like one of them. I teach them how to increase production diversity so they have diverse foods. When they make a little money, I teach them to prioritize nutrition, good food, health care, sanitation. This is important for nutrition.
And when women are pregnant or they're lactating, I help them to balance their time and their energy by using technologies that are time-saving, labor-saving. This is important to me. But more importantly, I help governments promote nutrition policies, like school feeding policies, where agriculture can now feed schools. The school becomes a market and children thrive. But another thing is my research work on biofortified beans.
Biofortified beans?
Yes.
All right.
I really push for biofortification because I've seen it work. Our study in Rwanda, it showed that biofortified beans can resolve anemia, can even improve brain function in women. So I've seen agriculture stop the very thing that almost cost me my life. And that's why I push for it.
Wow, wow. I mean, we talk about hidden hunger. When I look at you now, fully grown, I would never think that. So how do we communicate this message, to say there's something you're missing? There's hidden hunger in you. I mean, what Moses was telling us was tummy feel. But what you are bringing is the hidden hunger that led to premature birth at 36 weeks, and not many people survive. Currently, 1 in 3 deaths are attributed to malnutrition in Africa, and you are the success story to do the work. So how do we deal with this divide? I mean, my own grandmother, Emma's farm now has got cattle, pigs, everything. There's all the diversity that she needs. What has gone wrong in the agriculture system? And I go back to the 17 CG centers. What is happening? Because we've got all the core commodities across the 17. Why is this not coming to bear at household level, at the smallholder farm level? What is broken?
I think what I have to mention is what I see in communities. We walk down the street and we all look the same and we think we are all okay. So it takes a mind shift to be able to say there's something we don't see, but we need to be aware of it. Until 10 years ago, the CG was still pushing calories. So we are learning that quality is important. So nutrition education and promotion is critical. But I need this in schools. I need this in social media, in the radio, in communities. When we talk, we have to talk about diversity. We have to embrace diversity. We have to make this part of our message.
Thank you, and thank you for that story. And congratulations, we have you thanks to technology and knowledge. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had Uganda. It's farming, smallholder farming. It's advisory services from Moses. It's nutrition from Messi. But we're all being told that for agriculture to be cool for the youth, they want to move up the value chain. They want to see money. And they view smallholder farming as more of subsistence type. We've got Salif from Mali. Hi. You are the big bucks man here.
Don't
Tell us, when does the till tick? What do you do?
Thank you, everyone. First of all, don't be fooled. So I was a PhD candidate about 6 years ago up at Purdue, studying political science, international relations, so nothing really directly related to agriculture. And the stipend I made 10 years ago as a graduate teaching assistant is more than I make today. So for the entrepreneurs out there, just that's the cold hard, that's the cold hard truth. I have zero regrets. I have, this is something that I've been committed to basically since I was born. I was born in Rome. My dad also went to Purdue. He got his Ag Econ degree there in the 80s. So when he was posted to the FAO as a young professional, and then a few years later moved to Ethiopia. So I grew up in Ethiopia in the 80s when, unfortunately, Ethiopia was synonymous with malnutrition and hunger. And at the time, I remember a story when someone was telling me about South Park and Starvin' Marvin, and I couldn't understand, what they were talking about. But so this issue of hunger is something that is just deep. I would say it's deep for me. But and things are going well. I want to emphasize that, but what do you need to do to ensure that you succeed as an entrepreneur in this space? I think number one is the commitment and the vision that is non-negotiable, and to have a vetted, no BS action plan, and then the work and the ethic to put that action plan into motion. And that's what's gonna allow you, because it's gonna happen when the adversity hits, when the things that you expected to happen doesn't happen, you're not gonna panic. Okay, so this theme has been, the theme of youth and agriculture is something that it's almost become a gravy train. Excuse me if I can be a bit blunt.
Yeah.
There was a lot of energy, or a lot of attention. There's a lot of programs, a lot of projects, a lot of consultants making a lot of money, a lot of economic opportunities for those consultants to supposedly create economic opportunities for young people. And I don't want to be a hypocrite because I'm one that benefited from that. So I also do a lot of agribusiness consulting, and in fact, it's income from doing that consulting that allowed me to invest in Malo.
Okay.
So Malo would be dead today because I moved back in 2011. 6 months later, we had a coup d'etat. Al-Qaeda basically had half the country under occupation, from Timbuktu all the way to south of Mopti. All the funders that we had lined up dried up. USAID left the country. Peace Corps left the country. Mali was basically closed.
Yeah.
My professor said to come back and finish my dissertation, and I decided to not heed that advice. We decided to stick it through. And really the moment, the opportunity that we had was, as I mentioned, my dad retired at about the same time, took his entire pension, his entire life savings, and basically said, kids, go build me the farm that I always wanted since I was a poor child growing up in Mali. He went to Israel. We went online. We found basically what are the technologies out there. And we went and built a 10-acre, so 4 hectare, a 10-acre farm outside of Bamako. So it's a peri-urban farm. And it was tough. I mean, the first few years was grueling because.
But who gave you the skills? I mean, you're trained, you're doing international relations, and now you're back building a farm.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So Excel row cropping is very different from like real row cropping. So I was really good at Excel. So I have, it's a family business. So, you know, my dad too, he's an economist. I had a younger brother who did not do so well in school, like a lot of young people, but this was an opportunity for him to kind of get his life back on track. So he became the farm manager. And he had a baptism of fire. And the person that changed his life was in the Egyptian government had an agronomist as part of the bilateral relations between Mali and Egypt, sent an Egyptian agronomist to Mali. I think for 4 years, nobody called him. He was just bored watching TV at home until he heard that there was this young 18-year-old kid, my brother, who got thrust with this hundreds of thousands of dollars, just got invested in this farm, trying to grow tomatoes and all this technology, but had difficulty. So he basically mentored my little brother. And that's how my little brother learned to farm. So I work with him. Technically, I'm not the strongest, but we build tools to manage the business from a technical standpoint, like human resources standpoint, the economic standpoint. And today, we get paid today to provide advice to others. Wow. And our flagship, our first customer, our first client was a gold mining company in Western Mali. Controversial, extractive. Some of you maybe know a little bit of African history. If you Google Mansa Musa, you'll learn about the wealth, the enormous wealth in this part of the world that has been extracted for centuries. And they hired us to design a program for them because they're worried about 2 things. The illegal mining, the young people that are frustrated and are engaging in illegal mining. And second, is there a way for them to reduce their food costs? Because they have thousands of employees from Australia, from South Africa, and they're importing food from long distances. So the program was simple. Year 1, training school. So we designed a training school based on our family farm. Okay. Started with 100 kids. Not everybody made it, and that's why it's designed that way. We don't want everyone to make it. Now, the ones that made it now have been placed this year on 5 additional incubation farms. So each person that goes to the program knows how to produce horticulture, They can do dairy, they can do poultry, they can do aquaculture, and it's them that are feeding the mine workers.
Wow.
And excess is being sold to market.
So what's your relationship with these trainees? Are they still reporting to you? I mean, what's your business line there?
We moved on because we're consultants, and now we're working on 2 additional projects that focus on this. One is a USAID-funded project with AVRDC, the World Vegetable Center, and that is, again, our role is very simple. Is the business side. We have a vetted business plan and tools, so we take a young, committed individual or a team and then connect them to the market. So we've had 2 wholesalers commit to buy all the produce that are the youth that are benefiting from this program are gonna benefit from.
So one thing that's clear is that you train, but you also target. Not everybody makes it through the training. And for those that make it, they come up with a clear plan, and it's about business, and it's about the opportunity and the skill that you've given them that carries them through. So that's your core business.
It is, and if there's one field or one domain, I mean, agriculture does not joke. Farming does not joke, right? Like, it just don't. Like, if you neglect your plant, your seedling, you'll see the results instantly. If you're sloppy, you're lazy, you don't do the work, you'll get that. And what we have is that too many people, and I speak for Mali, my own country, the problem of injustice and impunity, where people who are getting all these resources, all these programs, all these grants, a lot of them don't deserve it. And the ones that do are being left behind, and they're the ones that are being frustrated. They're the ones that are being recruited by extremist groups. They're the ones that are angry. They're the ones that end up being suicide bombers. So if we don't go back to like this ethical, value-based system, we will continue pumping money, and it'll actually make the problem worse. And that is my fear, but I'm an optimist that we can solve the problem. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our businessman in the room, Salif. Farming is no joke, he says. And he's making sure he brings the best of the best out of Mali, and that they feed themselves, and not just feed Mali. Hopefully, you'll be feeding the continent. Thank you so much, Salif. I'll come back to you. Now, over to you, Thembi. We've heard about the smallholder farm that's thriving. We've heard about the challenges in advisory services. We've heard about the challenge of malnutrition and the challenge of governments that dish out help without targeting. What is it that you're doing on the policy front? What can be done to alleviate all these challenges, which to me are really about governments not having their act together, policies that are broken? How do we fix this brokenness?
Well, we have excellent policies on paper. I mean, if they were to be marked by university professors, they'll probably be A+ papers, because they read really well in English and in French and in Portuguese and the other languages that we have in Africa. But the one thing that's lacking is that they are not informed by the people that are actually facing the challenges. There's a disconnect between the policymakers and the people that are working on the ground. The young people are not consulted, and therefore the policy miss the actual challenges that they need to address. What we are doing at FANRPAN is trying to bridge that gap. We are looking at what's the message that's out there. We know the challenges, but what has research done to try and address the challenges, and what is science saying? But at the same time, we know that researchers are not good communicators. So the research might be there, but it's sitting on shelves, and nothing is being done about it. It's not feeding into the policy processes. So we're saying, who are the best messengers to actually carry that message that the researchers have come up with? Can the young people speak for themselves? Can they communicate to the policymakers exactly what they want to see happening? But at the same time, we are also saying, what are the platforms where young people can engage? The ministerial meetings are closed meetings. They don't invite. They talk to themselves. Yes, that's correct. So we're saying, what platforms can we have so that young people are engaging? And we have also found that we talk a lot at the global level and at the regional level, but there's little talk at community level. So we are also trying to see how can we get young farmers, women farmers at community level also inputting into the policy
So
process.
what are you doing about it?
We have developed a tool that we call Theatre for Policy Advocacy. It's a culturally sensitive tool where we use theatre as a way of bringing research results from the universities, from the research institutions to the village. And we get the farmers at that level to actually validate the research by saying, yes, that speaks to me, or no, that is too far-fetched. So the way we do it is that we have theatre performances at community level, which are then followed by dialogues, where different groups of community members, the youth on their own, the women on their own, and the men, they actually take apart the performance to say, I identify with that person because these are the challenges that I'm actually facing. So by using theatre and presenting a challenge through an actor, people are free to engage and they're free to actually say what could be.
Demystifying the policy development process and making it tangible so the evidence is real.
Yes, that's what we are doing. We are making it simple. We're saying that policy is not out of reach. The farmers, the youth, they can get involved. They just need to have the right engagement platforms.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're burning to engage with this panel. I'm going to take a couple of questions. There are mics on the side. If you can just line up, I can see one of the mics there. If you are burning to engage with the youth and ask a couple of questions, this is your time. I can see Gordon walking to the mic. No. So where Gordon is, there's a mic. Kwesi, you're going to the mic? All right, there's another one on this side. So if we can have people line up as the panel will take the questions. Over to you, Kwesi.
Thank you very much, Lindiwe. It's so heartening that youth has become a key issue in the sort of subject matter we have been discussing. I mean, if you go back to 3, 4, 5 World Food Prize events, you will hear youth being mentioned. But I think what is different now is that we are beginning to see youth with evidence of engagement. I think there's too much talk at times. We really need more and more examples of youth coming in to actually showcase what they have been able to do. It may not be perfect, but they are doing it. And so the challenge for all of us, whichever organization or institution we come from, is a challenge of engagement. In the same vein, we have heard from our lady in the extreme that the problem is not just policies. If you go in there, I hear we can even score A1 if we are scored by a university professor, and that the problem is actually the implementation. I want to make a call that we need advocacy at 2 levels. First of all, we need advocacy at the level of policy making, penetration in countries. I've just come from a side event of the Alliance Against Hunger, working with staff, and they are doing very good work, linking up with congressmen and trying to influence the policy of the US government towards food and agriculture. And I would like to see developing country networks setting up at that level. But that alone is not enough. We also need to have on-the-ground level advocacy where we are actually implementing things to show that it can work and it can change things. So that's my wish and my call, that the next World Food Prize, we will have specific evidence-based examples of how this has worked at the 2 levels.
Thank you very much, Kwesi. That's IITA. There is a promise for the next World Food Prize. Thank you. Over to you. Please keep them short. We just want to capture as many questions so that the panelists have time to respond.
I am Marceline Egnen from Tuskegee University, originally from Cote d'Ivoire. your stories are very touching, especially Moses. The fact that your farmers are using so many harsh chemicals. And how do we educate the youth, the next generation farmers, how to sustainably use integrated pest management to make sure that they have better crop. Also, this should take us back into starting again the dialogue of engineered crops, whether transgenic or genome editing crop that can help the plant natural biological defense system so that we use less and less of those harsh chemicals and better for the environment. So that would be my question.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Edson,
Your name, please.
Edson PC from the African Development Bank, and I coordinate the Enable Youth Program. So it's really great to hear, all these stories here, and especially I like my sister.
Please speak to the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and especially my sister from Uganda, who's built a school, and you're starting agriculture very early at the primary stage. I think that's very important. But I've got a question for my Salif Niang from Mali, right? Yes, I think you've gave us a reality dose that what you're earning now as an agripreneur is less than what you were earning 10 years ago as a grad student. But here I am at the African Development Bank trying to excite all the youth on the continent to get into agribusiness. So tell me, in Mali, okay, I've seen your model. You're working with one or two, and training a few agripreneurs. But here we're being told we have 420 million youth on the continent, 12 million coming into the job market every year, and there's only 3 million jobs. So we have a huge gap of 9 million jobs. One, in Mali, how can we? Some of your ideas, how do we scale what you're doing, as government, as, development partners, I like your ideas. How can we scale this up? But also, give us the idea on private sector. You're a private, private sector. What support can government, how can they best come in? Because we work a lot with the government, the public sector. I'd like to hear your thoughts, especially with the Mali example. Thank you.
Thank you, Salif. We want money. Tell us how we can make it happen. I've got two more, then I'll close the questions. Over to you, ladies.
Okay, my name is Esther Kimani from Kenya. I work with the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization. And my question to the panelists is, how would you want the research organization to engage with the youth and the issues that you are facing? Yeah, how do you want us to engage? You just don't want to come from known and dump things on you, or, but yeah, how would you like to see that happening? Thank you.
My name is Florence Wambogo. I work with an organization called Africa Harvest in Africa.
Volume.
My name is Florence Wambogo. I work with an organization called Africa Harvest in Africa. Mine is a question and a comment. I've been working with the youth. The organization is involved in technology transfer, grassroots level between private sector as well as from other international organizations along the value chain. And with that, we have found that it's hard just to put the youth in a straitjacket. They have their own innovative ideas how they want to engage. For example, in one project, we were working on sorghum, and they decided it's better, instead of selling their sorghum, turn it to feed, and they start chicken business and eggs business, entrepreneurship, and making money. And so I realized in this, try to engage the youth. Allowing innovation and the creativity is very, very important, and flexibility. Another very interesting observation is about another experience I have in our church. I go to a big church, about 10,000 members, and I was asked to start a youth entrepreneurship business in agriculture. First time I had the youth showed up. Within a short time, you got about 650 youth all coming and networking. We meet once in a month. But to me, the most interesting thing out of this is the most powerful have been them exchanging their own ideas, opening the platform, having their own WhatsApp group, having their own exchange of ideas and helping each other. How are we making money? Where are we losing money? So I actually bring speakers once in a month to actually target the area where they're having the biggest challenge. Otherwise, they're learning from each other's mistakes, and really moving forward very well. So I'll say, even as we come up with some concrete ideas, let us allow for flexibility, creativity, and most important, the youth learning from other youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those experiences from the ground. What I would like to hear from the panel, you've heard the suggestions, the recommendations, but there's nothing that beats youth solving the challenges that face the youth. You are the champions. You are the ones who will lift the millions. Currently, 1 in 2 Africans are below 35. What that means is there's a whole army that you all have to lift. What is the one challenge that you've had to overcome and that you wouldn't want other youths to face? I'll start with you, Thembi.
I'll say there's need to demystify policy. If we're talking about developing... Yes, demystify policy. If we're talking about real engagement for youth, they have to be part of it. It's nothing for the youth without the youth. So let's make sure that they're fully engaged and they're not just tokens.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's nothing for the youth without the youth. So the youth is now. It's not the future. Over to you, Salim.
Thank you. I just want to be clear, and I did say that, yes, I make less today, but that doesn't mean I haven't made money. What I'm saying is that what we were able to make, we've invested it. I live well. I'm very privileged. I'm very lucky. Okay, so I'm not trying to give that impression at all. And Malo, which is, we're the first rice fortification company in Africa. We're about to finish a deal with the World Food Program. For the first time, almost 100,000 kids are going to have fortified rice in school all year, and it took 6 years, but it's a very good deal. Agriculture is possible. We're making money, but if you don't have that, if you don't make that commitment, that sacrifice initially, at least in the first few years, it's very difficult in the long run. We try to instill in the youth. Reduce the risk, don't lose money, but think the long game. Because the investment you make today, for years and years, you'll get those rewards. Once you take gold out of the ground, it's gone. Yep. But once you invest in your soil, you can have generations of wealth to come.
So reduce the risk.
You reduce the risk, and that's what we're doing now with the tools that we've built. Excellent. When we talk to young people.
So de-risk agriculture. Thank you. Messi, what's the one big challenge you had to overcome?
Of course, given my history, I had to change my mind shift. My mother said, do not go into agriculture. Then do not go into agriculture. But when I was at Cornell, Professor Pepinstrap Anderson was singing, linking agriculture to nutrition. And I was thinking, how do I make this work for me? And I like the comments that came out. What we do now at CIAT is really co-create solutions with the youth. We use partnerships with civil society to be able to engage government, to engage communities. And now with the African Leaders for Nutrition at the African Development Bank, we really want to push those policies that work on nutrition. For me, I'm preaching nutrition-led agriculture, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Nutrition-led agriculture, that's your story and you're sticking to it. Thank you, Messi, and thank you to Per Strip Anderson, who's here, the role model who made you do what you do now. Over to you, Moses.
Yes, I feel the youth have 3 questions that must be answered. And one is that, does agriculture really pay? The other is that, can it be a sustainable source of livelihood for myself? And the third is that, do I have some dignity? Can I be recognized as a contributor in my community if I engaged in agriculture.
So dignify agriculture.
Yes. And it comes to the issue of access to the technology that you are using. If we look at the issue of seed, access to seed on credit, fertilizer, and the rest, as well as the training component, but also importantly, the tools that you are using, then we see that agriculture will be profitable and young people will be attracted to it.
So dignify agriculture, ensure farmers have access to technology, and make it profitable, make it a business. Thank you. Finally, our rock star, the farmer cum vet.
One of the reasons why I'm like this, I've been a successful farmer, is because I had knowledge. I went to school. So, issue is give the youth the knowledge they deserve to do whatever they need to do. And since, like I said, 14% of, 70% of Africans or Ugandans are 14 years old, it means they're young, they need to be given knowledge. So that's why I put up that primary school to just disseminate knowledge all over. And these kids, it's amazing what they will do. They will not only learn it, but they're going to pass on the same information to their parents and to the neighbors, and everyone will be happy. Knowledge.
Give us education, give us knowledge. That's what will make agriculture cool for the youth. Ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here and see Mami, Judy, and Julie Borlaug, I'm reminded of what they've always told me, that when Norm was in his last minutes, he said, take me to Africa. And today, I'm sure he's smiling because his life was about the next generation. They are real, they are doing it. Thank you very much. Join me in thanking them.
Lindiwe, thank you. Lindiwe is so incredible. She's my rock star. Last year, she brought one or two presidents from Africa and had a panel. This year, she's brought the youth. So I don't know who you're going to bring back next year now that you're vice president at AGRA, but it has to be somebody.
African ministers of agriculture have
African
to reform
ministers of
policies.
agriculture. All right, Morgan, put that in. It's in the program. All right, thank you. Okay, while we're getting set, I want to share, Lindiwe, and Emma, just share with you that when I was in India a month ago, there was a medical doctor and a farmer, and she got an award at the 10th anniversary summit of the Indian Council of Food and Agriculture. So it's almost all men getting awards, and she comes up and she's the Farmer of the Year, and she's at the microphone, and she said the most memorable line. She said, I'm more proud to tell people I'm a farmer than that I'm a doctor. And so that's...